Have you ever reached the end of a day and quietly promised yourself, tomorrow will be different? Tomorrow I'll wake up early. Tomorrow I'll start exercising. Tomorrow I'll stop wasting time. Tomorrow I'll finally work on my dream. And then tomorrow comes, and somehow it looks exactly like yesterday. The alarm rings, you hit snooze, you scroll your phone for 10 minutes that magically become 40. You tell yourself you'll start after breakfast, then after lunch, then next Monday, then next month, and before you realize it, another year has disappeared. Here's the painful truth. Most people don't fail because they make huge mistakes. They fail because they keep making tiny decisions that seem completely harmless. Decisions so small they don't even feel like decisions at all. That's what makes them dangerous. Today, I want to share a life-changing idea that has transformed the lives of countless successful people. It's an idea so simple that many people ignore it, yet it's so powerful that if you truly understand it and apply it, your life may never be the same again. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you think about success, failure, money, health, relationships, and your future. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people seem to get luckier every year, while others stay stuck no matter how hard they work. And more importantly, you'll know exactly which path you're walking today. Imagine two friends. Let's call them Alex and Ryan. They graduate from college on the same day. They have similar intelligence, similar opportunities, similar dreams, and almost identical financial situations. Both are excited about life. Both believe they have unlimited potential. If you meet them on graduation day, you probably wouldn't notice any difference between them. 1 year later, nothing much has changed. They both have jobs, they both earn similar salaries, they still look almost the same. 5 years later, there are small differences. Alex has developed a habit of reading for 20 minutes every morning before work. Ryan spends those same 20 minutes scrolling through social media. Alex exercises 3 times a week. Ryan keeps saying he'll start next month. Alex saves a small percentage of every paycheck. Ryan spends everything because he believes he'll earn more later. The differences are still small. Most people wouldn't notice them. But then something interesting happens. 10 years later, Alex owns a successful business, enjoys good health, has financial freedom, and wakes up excited every morning. Ryan is constantly stressed about bills, struggles with his health, feels trapped in a job he doesn't enjoy, and can't understand why life never seems to improve. What happened? Did Alex get lucky? Was Ryan simply unfortunate? Or was something much deeper taking place all those years? The answer is hidden in something almost invisible: tiny daily choices, tiny actions, tiny habits, tiny moments that nobody pays attention to because they don't seem important today. That's the biggest illusion of life. We judge our actions by their immediate results. If eating one unhealthy meal doesn't make us overweight, we think it's okay. If skipping one workout doesn't make us weak, we think it's okay. If wasting 1 hour today doesn't ruin our career, we assume there's no consequence. But life doesn't work that way. Success isn't built in one dramatic moment. Failure doesn't happen overnight either. Both grow silently, one tiny decision at a time, until one day the results become impossible to ignore. Think about a plane taking off from New York toward Los Angeles. If the pilot changes the direction by only 1 degree, passengers won't notice anything. The airplane still looks like it's heading in the right direction. But after flying for several hours, that tiny 1 degree difference can land the plane hundreds of miles away from its intended destination. Life works exactly the same way. Small decisions repeated consistently don't stay small. They multiply, they compound, they quietly create a completely different future. That's why the little things you do every single day matter far more than the big things you do once in a while. Unfortunately, our brains aren't designed to appreciate this truth. We crave immediate rewards. We want instant results. We want to lose 10 pounds in a week, become rich in a month, master a new skill in 30 days, build a successful business overnight. And when those things don't happen fast enough, we give up. We think the strategy isn't working, when in reality, we simply quit before the results became visible. Nature teaches us a different lesson.
Imagine planting a bamboo seed. You water it every day, you protect it from the sun, you take care of the soil. After 1 month, nothing appears. After 6 months, still nothing. After 1 year, the ground looks exactly the same. Most people would stop watering because they believe nothing is happening. But underground, something incredible is taking place. The roots are spreading deeper and stronger every single day. Then, one day, the bamboo suddenly shoots upward at an astonishing speed. To someone watching from the outside, it looks like overnight success. But the truth is, the visible growth was made possible by years of invisible preparation. Human success follows the same pattern. Every book you read, every workout you complete, every dollar you save, every skill you practice, every promise you keep to yourself, they're all invisible roots growing beneath the surface. At first, nobody notices. Sometimes even you don't notice. You wonder if your efforts are making any difference. You question whether it's worth continuing. This is the exact moment where most people quit. They mistake invisible progress for no progress. But the people who eventually succeed understand something different. They know that today's effort is preparing tomorrow's breakthrough. They don't expect immediate rewards because they understand that meaningful change always begins where nobody can see it. Think about learning a new language. The first week feels awkward. You memorize a few words but can't hold a conversation. The second week doesn't feel much different. The third week still seems frustrating. But if you continue every day for 2 years, suddenly you're speaking fluently. When did it happen? There wasn't one magical day. It happened because thousands of tiny improvements accumulated until they became impossible to ignore. The same principle applies to confidence. Nobody wakes up one morning filled with unstoppable confidence. Confidence grows every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you do something difficult instead of something comfortable, every time you choose discipline over excuses. Those tiny victories slowly change the way you see yourself. Eventually, your identity transforms. You no longer say, "I'm trying to become disciplined." You simply become a disciplined person. That's a completely different level of transformation because behavior follows identity. If you believe you're lazy, you'll continue acting lazily. If you believe you're someone who finishes what they start, your actions naturally begin matching that belief. Your identity isn't built by one big achievement. It's built by thousands of small pieces of evidence collected every single day. Every action is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every choice whispers something to your subconscious. Either, "I am someone who gives up," or "I am someone who keeps going." Most people underestimate these whispers because they seem insignificant. But over time, those whispers become your inner voice. They become your personality. They become your future. And here's something even more surprising. The world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards consistency. Millions of people have brilliant ideas. Millions dream about becoming successful. Millions say they want a better life. But dreams without consistent action remain dreams forever. The gap between ordinary people and extraordinary people is rarely talent. It's almost always consistency. The extraordinary person simply continues long after everyone else has stopped. Imagine 2 people starting a YouTube channel on the same day. Both upload their first video. It gets only 50 views. One person feels discouraged and quits after 3 uploads. The other keeps improving 1 video at a time, even when nobody is watching. 1 year later, the second creator has published hundreds of videos, learned storytelling, improved editing, understood the audience, and built momentum that nobody can suddenly copy. From the outside, people call it luck, but behind that luck are hundreds of invisible decisions repeated day after day. And this raises one question that almost nobody asks themselves. If your current daily habits continued for the next 5 years without changing, where would your life end up? Don't think about your goals, think about your routine, because your routine is quietly creating the future you'll eventually call your destiny. And once you truly understand this, you'll never look at an ordinary day the same way again.
Now here's the uncomfortable part that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you're making an investment. Not just with your money, but with your time, your attention, your energy, your focus, and your habits. The question isn't whether you're investing. The question is, what kind of return will those investments produce 5 or 10 years from now? Imagine someone who decides to read just 10 pages of a good book every day. 10 pages doesn't sound impressive. It doesn't make for an exciting social media post. Nobody applauds you for reading 10 pages. But after 1 year, that person has finished around 12 to 15 books. After 5 years, they've absorbed the wisdom of more than 60 books. While others are still saying, "I should read more," this person has quietly transformed the way they think, solve problems, communicate, and make decisions. It wasn't one extraordinary weekend that changed their life. It was 10 pages, repeated hundreds of times. Now imagine another person who spends those same 20 minutes every day consuming meaningless content that they barely remember an hour later. The difference between these two people is invisible today, almost invisible next month, but impossible to ignore after several years. This is one of life's greatest secrets. The smallest choices are often the most powerful because they are repeated the most. We tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a single day and underestimate what we can accomplish in 1,000 ordinary days. That's why so many people keep chasing motivation while ignoring routine. Motivation feels exciting. It gives you emotional energy. But motivation comes and goes. Routine stays. Discipline stays. Systems stay. Successful people don't wake up every morning feeling inspired. They simply remove the need to make the same decision over and over again. They don't ask themselves whether they feel like exercising today. It's already part of who they are. They don't debate whether they should save money this month. The decision was made long ago. Their habits have become automatic. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to do it. You don't watch inspirational videos before picking up your toothbrush. You simply do it because it's part of your identity. Imagine if your most important life habits became just as automatic. Imagine waking up and writing for 30 minutes without thinking, exercising without arguing with yourself, learning new skills without waiting for the perfect mood. That version of you isn't created by one massive decision. It's built through repetition until the action becomes effortless. But there's another side to this story that very few people talk about. Bad habits work exactly the same way. They also compound. They also become automatic. They also shape your identity. One late night seems harmless. One unnecessary purchase doesn't seem dangerous. One skipped workout doesn't feel important. 1 hour of procrastination doesn't appear to matter. But repeated hundreds of times, those tiny choices slowly create a life you never intended to build. It's like filling a glass with drops of water. 1 drop changes nothing. 2 drops still look meaningless. Even 100 drops don't seem significant, but eventually the glass becomes full. Every habit is another drop. The problem is that people only notice the overflow. They don't pay attention while the glass is slowly filling. Someone develops serious health problems and says it happened suddenly. No, it didn't. Someone goes into debt and believes it came out of nowhere. It didn't. Someone's relationship falls apart after years of neglect and wonders what went wrong. The answer usually isn't one dramatic event. It's thousands of tiny moments where small decisions quietly accumulated until the consequences became impossible to avoid. That's why awareness is one of the greatest superpowers you can develop. Every time you're about to make a decision, ask yourself one simple question. Is this choice moving me closer to the person I want to become or further away? Notice something important. The question isn't whether the action feels good right now. It's whether it supports the future you're trying to create. Because comfort has a strange way of disguising itself as harmless. Staying in bed for another 30 minutes feels comfortable. Buying something you don't need feels satisfying. Watching another episode feels relaxing. Putting off difficult work feels easier. In the moment, comfort always wins the argument, but over time, comfort often becomes regret. Successful people understand that today's comfort can become tomorrow's disappointment.
while today's discipline can become tomorrow's freedom. That's a trade most people never learn to make. They sacrifice long-term happiness for short-term pleasure, then wonder why their lives never change. Imagine standing at the bottom of two staircases. One staircase is labeled easy today. The other is labeled easy tomorrow. The first staircase feels effortless to climb because every step avoids discomfort. But at the top, you discover stress, financial pressure, poor health, missed opportunities, and regret. The second staircase is harder in the beginning. Every step requires discipline, patience, and effort. But when you reach the top, you find confidence, freedom, strong relationships, financial security, and peace of mind. Every single day, without realizing it, we're choosing which staircase to climb. Here's something even more fascinating. Success isn't just about adding good habits. Sometimes it's about removing the invisible forces that are quietly stealing your future. Think about your environment. Imagine placing a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen table and hiding junk food in a difficult-to-reach cabinet. Without using willpower, you've already made healthy eating easier. Now imagine keeping your phone beside your bed every night. Before your feet even touch the floor in the morning, you're checking notifications, emails, messages, and social media. You've unknowingly trained your brain to react instead of create. Small environmental changes produce surprisingly powerful results because they influence thousands of future decisions. If your workspace is organized, productive work becomes easier. If your books are visible, reading becomes more likely. If your running shoes are waiting by the door, exercising requires less effort. We often blame ourselves for lacking discipline when the real problem is that we've designed an environment that constantly encourages distraction. Stop relying only on willpower. Design your surroundings so success becomes the easiest option. Another mistake people make is believing that progress must always be dramatic. Imagine watching the hour hand on a clock. It barely seems to move. You could stare at it for an entire minute and believe nothing is happening. Yet by the end of the day, it has completed an enormous journey. Personal growth often feels exactly like that. You don't notice change while it's happening. You notice it only after enough time has passed. That's why patience is one of the rarest and most valuable qualities in today's world. We live in an age where everything is expected immediately. Food arrives in minutes, movies start instantly, messages are delivered in seconds. But meaningful success still follows the ancient laws of patience and consistency. Those laws have never changed, and they never will. A tree cannot be forced to grow faster by pulling on its branches. A child cannot become an adult overnight. A masterpiece isn't painted in one brushstroke. Everything valuable requires time. Yet people abandon their dreams simply because they mistake slow growth for failure. Never confuse slow growth with no growth. As long as you're moving forward, you're winning. Even if today's improvement is only 1%, that 1% matters, because tomorrow you'll build on today's progress instead of starting from zero again. Now think about confidence one more time. Many people believe confidence comes before action. They wait until they feel brave enough to start the business, ask for the opportunity, speak in public, or chase their dream. But that's backwards. Confidence doesn't create action. Action creates confidence. Every courageous step becomes proof that you're capable of taking another one. That's why the first step is always the hardest. After that, momentum begins working in your favor. Imagine pushing a heavy car that's stuck. At first, it barely moves. You push with all your strength and nothing seems to happen. Then suddenly, the wheels begin turning. Once momentum takes over, keeping the car moving becomes much easier than getting it started. Human behavior follows the same principle. Starting is difficult, continuing becomes easier. Eventually, stopping feels harder than continuing. That's the power of momentum. But remember, momentum works in both directions. Positive habits create positive momentum. Negative habits create negative momentum. Every day you repeat a behavior, you're strengthening its momentum. So ask yourself honestly, what momentum are you creating right now? Is your daily routine pulling you toward your dreams or quietly carrying you away from them? Because whether you notice it or not, every ordinary day is writing the story of your extraordinary future. And in the next part, we'll explore why the choices that seem completely insignificant today often become the defining moments of your entire life, and how one simple shift in your thinking can permanently change the direction of your future.
The most dangerous sentence in the world is not, "I can't," it's, "I'll do it later." Those 4 words have quietly stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Later feels harmless. Later feels responsible. Later feels like you're still committed to your goal. But later has a strange habit of turning into never. Think back to something you've wanted to do for years. Maybe it was starting a business, learning a new language, writing a book, getting into shape, spending more time with your family. Chances are the biggest obstacle wasn't a lack of ability, it was the belief that there would always be a better time to begin. Here's the truth that successful people discover much earlier than everyone else. There is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is created the instant you decide to move. Waiting for certainty is like waiting for the ocean to stop making waves before learning to swim. Life will always be busy. There will always be bills to pay, responsibilities to handle, unexpected problems to solve, and reasons to postpone your dreams. If you wait until everything is easy, you'll spend your entire life waiting. Imagine standing in front of a massive mountain. Looking at the summit feels overwhelming. Your mind immediately begins calculating how difficult the climb will be. The distance seems impossible. The effort feels exhausting. But experienced climbers never focus on the summit while taking their first step. They focus on the next few feet in front of them. One safe step, then another, then another. Eventually, without even realizing it, they've reached heights that once seemed impossible. Life rewards people who master the next step, not those who obsess over the final destination. That's why overwhelming goals often paralyze us. We try to solve the next 5 years instead of winning the next 5 minutes. Instead of asking, "How will I lose 50 pounds?" ask, "What's the healthiest choice I can make at my next meal?" Big transformations are simply small victories repeated so many times that they become impossible to separate. Another powerful shift happens when you stop measuring success only by results and start measuring it by consistency. Most people wake up motivated after a good result and discouraged after a bad one. Their emotions rise and fall depending on outcomes they can't fully control. But imagine measuring success differently. Imagine finishing a workout and feeling proud not because you've already transformed your body, but because you kept your promise to yourself. Imagine celebrating a day of focused work, even if the project isn't finished yet. Imagine ending each evening asking only one question: did I become a little better than yesterday? Suddenly, progress no longer depends on instant rewards. It depends on your commitment to the process. And once you fall in love with the process, success becomes much harder to stop. Think about the greatest musicians, athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists in the world. Their achievements are impressive, but what truly separates them is their relationship with repetition. They don't just tolerate practice, they respect it. They understand that every ordinary session contributes to an extraordinary future. While everyone else is searching for shortcuts, they're quietly mastering the fundamentals. That's why their success appears effortless from a distance. What people call talent is often thousands of hours of invisible preparation. The same principle applies to your own life. Every difficult conversation you choose to have instead of avoiding it strengthens your character. Every promise you keep to yourself builds trust within your own mind. Every challenge you face instead of escaping expands your capacity to handle bigger opportunities. Growth rarely feels exciting while it's happening. In fact, it often feels uncomfortable, repetitive, and slow. But discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. Very often, it's evidence that you're expanding beyond your previous limits. Muscles grow by recovering from resistance. Skills grow by correcting mistakes. Confidence grows by surviving situations that once frightened you. A meaningful life isn't built by avoiding difficulty. It's built by learning to walk through difficulty without giving up.
The next time you feel like quitting because the results aren't visible yet, remember this. A seed underground doesn't look successful, yet everything necessary for future growth is already happening beneath the surface. Your effort today may not receive applause. Nobody may notice your discipline. Nobody may understand your vision. That's okay. The strongest foundations are always hidden. One day, people may look at your success and call you lucky. They'll see the harvest, but not the years of planting. They'll admire the confidence, but never the moments of self-doubt you overcame. They'll notice the achievement, but never the countless ordinary days that quietly made it possible. And that's perfectly fine, because true progress has never depended on recognition. It depends on your willingness to keep showing up, especially when nobody's watching. So, before this day ends, ask yourself one final question. If every small decision I make today were repeated for the next 5 years, would I be proud of where they lead me? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, remember this. You don't need to change your entire life today. You only need to change the next decision. Because the future isn't built all at once. It's built one choice, one habit, one ordinary day at a time. And those ordinary days, repeated with purpose, eventually create an extraordinary life.
There is a quiet battle happening inside every person every single day. It doesn't happen in public. No one applauds it. No one even knows it exists. It's the battle between the person you are today and the person you are capable of becoming. Every morning, both versions of you wake up together. One version wants comfort. It says, sleep a little longer, you deserve a break, you can start tomorrow. The other version whispers something much softer. It says, get up, take one step, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep moving. The strange thing is that the louder voice isn't always the right one. Comfort usually shouts, growth usually whispers. That's why so many people spend their lives listening to the wrong voice. They think success is about making one huge, heroic decision, when in reality, it's about winning hundreds of tiny, invisible battles that no one else will ever see. Imagine an artist standing in front of a blank canvas. On the first day, there's only one small brush stroke. If someone walked into the room, they might laugh and say, "That's nothing." On the second day, another brush stroke appears, still nothing impressive. A week later, a few colors begin to connect. A month later, the image starts to take shape. Eventually, what once looked like meaningless strokes becomes a masterpiece. Life works the same way. Every disciplined action is another brushstroke. Every difficult choice adds another color. Every promise you keep to yourself fills another corner of the canvas. The masterpiece isn't created in one moment, it's revealed through consistency. Many people destroy their progress because they compare their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. They open social media and see successful entrepreneurs, athletes, creators, and leaders. They see the finished product, but never the unfinished version. They don't see the years of rejection, the nights filled with uncertainty, the mistakes, the failures, the lonely mornings, or the sacrifices that happened long before success became visible. Comparison steals energy that could have been used to improve yourself. Instead of asking, "Why am I not where they are?" ask, "Am I better than I was 6 months ago?" That question leads to growth. The other one leads to frustration. There's another trap that quietly keeps people stuck. It's the belief that making mistakes means you're not good enough. Think about a baby learning to walk. The baby falls hundreds of times. Imagine if that baby decided after the 20th fall, walking just isn't for me. It sounds ridiculous because we understand that falling is part of learning. Yet adults forget this lesson. They fail once and suddenly they believe they're failures. They hear one rejection and assume they'll never succeed. They make one bad investment and convince themselves they're terrible with money. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every mistake carries information. Every setback teaches a lesson that success never could. The only real failure is refusing to learn. Now imagine two people facing the exact same obstacle. The first person asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The second asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" One question creates a victim, the other creates a leader. The event is identical, the mindset changes everything. Your perspective determines whether an obstacle becomes a wall or a staircase. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet didn't become strong because life was easy. They became strong because they stopped asking for lighter burdens and started building stronger shoulders. Every challenge they overcame expanded their capacity to handle even bigger opportunities. Here's something fascinating. Your future self is watching every decision you make today. Not literally, of course, but imagine if the version of you from 10 years from now could speak to you right now. What would they say? They probably wouldn't ask you to become perfect overnight. They wouldn't expect you to change your entire life before sunset. They would simply beg you not to quit. They would thank you for every healthy meal, every focused hour, every page you read, every workout you completed, every difficult conversation you chose to have, and every excuse you refused to believe. Why? Because your future is built from actions that feel almost insignificant today. There's a story about a stonecutter who strikes a massive rock with his hammer. He swings once, nothing happens. Twice, still nothing. 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. To anyone watching, it looks like he's making no progress at all. Then, on the 101st strike, the rock suddenly splits in half. Was it the last strike that broke the rock? Of course not. It was every strike that came before it. The last strike simply revealed what consistent effort had been building all along. Your breakthrough will often look exactly like that. People will notice the moment everything changes, but they won't realize that your success was being built during all the days when it seemed like nothing was happening. This is why patience is a competitive advantage. In a world addicted to instant gratification, the person who can stay committed for years automatically separates themselves from the crowd. Most people don't lose because they're incapable. They lose because they stop too soon. They plant seeds, water them for a week, then dig them up to see if they're growing. Real growth doesn't work that way. You must trust the process long enough for the results to appear. And let's talk about identity one more time, because this might be the most important lesson of all. Every action you repeat is casting another vote for the person you're becoming. If you keep choosing courage, eventually you'll see yourself as courageous. If you keep choosing discipline, you'll begin to believe you're disciplined. If you continue choosing honesty, learning, resilience, and responsibility, those qualities stop feeling like things you do. They become who you are. Once your identity changes, your decisions become easier because you're no longer forcing yourself to act differently. You're simply acting like the person you've become. So don't underestimate today. Don't underestimate this hour. Don't underestimate the next decision you make after this video ends. History isn't written only by dramatic moments. It's written by ordinary people who refuse to waste ordinary days. One small improvement today may not impress anyone, but repeated consistently, it has the power to completely transform your future. The life you dream about isn't waiting for one magical opportunity. It's waiting for thousands of ordinary decisions made with extraordinary consistency. And in the next part, we'll uncover why the most successful people protect their time more fiercely than their money, how tiny daily standards quietly shape extraordinary lives, and the simple mindset shift that can keep you moving forward even on the days when motivation completely disappears.